In 2004, I got my first job. That was November 2004. I had gone to a cyber cafe somewhere in town and I saw a classified advert. And what followed is that I got my first job with a real estate company somewhere in Westlands. And for the next 5 years, I worked in 5 companies in 5 years. That means approximately 1 calendar year in every place I worked. And my first 5 years of my career were, let me say, quite of an interesting ride. I got to see a lot of things, get a lot of experience. And that formed the foundation of where I am today. But then as I was working around 2008, I registered my first business, that is Pink Food Consult Limited. Pink Food Consult Limited today is a creative agency. We do graphic design, we do branding, we do digital marketing, we do brand development, stories are printing, and all that thing that is called creative. Of course, it has, Pink Food has gone a lot of changes, a lot of metamorphoses because of the expansion of opportunities in the digital space. Around 2006, 2007, I had, from a hobby perspective, bought my first serious camera. And what I thought was going to be just a weekend thing or a holiday thing, having bought my first professional camera, spiraled out of control and went on a different tangent. And I remember in 2009, one of my friends called David Mutinda gave me his wedding to photograph. And after that, photography became a serious thing. I started making some little money. And that is how I registered a business, Photomagic Studio, which I still run today, and forms, can I say, the biggest part of my balance sheet today in 2025, 2026, Photomagic Studio Limited. So that is how everything started. But then fast forward, just put a break on that, fast forward to 2023, 2024. The last 2 years have been with a different kind of drama. Without missing words, just say that they have been quite difficult, a number of unpleasant experiences that have happened in my business and my personal life. And is one of the reasons why I have done this first video in January 2026, because it has brought to, in the heart of everything I do, some of the challenges that we face as artists and creatives in the Kenyan economy, in the Kenyan context, in the Kenyan social setup. In 2023, around June, July, my office in Hurlingham was broken into. Of course, we are photographers, we are videographers, we have cameras, we have lenses, we have expensive laptops and computers. So my office was broken into and we lost equipment approximately worth 2 point something up to 3 million. Something which up to today we have never been able to recover. At the same time, I had a contract with a government institution for 2 years, a contract that was giving us a couple of millions of worth of work every month dedicated. We had to, we were very busy. We were financially okay. We were liquid. We were doing the time. We were doing the work. It was a very good contract, 2 years. And then the contract was starting around mid-2022. Around December 2022, January 2023, February, because of siasa and changes in the whole government institution, they pulled the plug on us. No communication, nothing. They just stopped giving us work. Na pia wakabaki na mita zetu kadhaa, 6, 7, 8 million, and left me in a lot of debt. Over time, we have somehow been able to get out of that. But then at the same time, what we also had to deal with is that as a business person, what follows after you get in that kind of debt is that you have to deal with delaying salaries. You have to struggle to pay your fixed costs like office rent, which is one of the biggest costs. Just running business without money becomes a problem. I mean, even your own life is affected. So it's been a little bit tough. And add to that, personally, as an artist, as a creative, one of the reasons why it has been a very difficult period is because I watched this government of William Samoei Ruto come to power with a lot of promises for us in the creative industry. I remember Ababu Namwamba launching Talanta Hela. I remember Ababu Namwamba on the screens, on TVs, in front of cameras all the time, trying to show up for creative events, art events. I remember us going to Safari Park and getting trophies and recognitions for little and big things that people have done in the creative industry. Even those in sports got a lot of recognition. But then it weighs heavily on my heart because the promises have been heavy, but the delivery has been extremely light. And one of the biggest opportunities that this government has lost is to capitalize on the expansion and the growth of digital space for young people, because that space offers a lot of opportunities for young people for employment, to make money, to do something important with their lives. And I don't think this government and those who make policies and those who create the opportunities have yet come to understand what an opportunity that is. So having said that, as we begin this new year, I'm making a slight shift in what I do. I have been running Photomagic Studio, doing photo and video work, mostly for corporate clients, NGOs, a lot of government institutions. I have run a family studio, done many projects. We have also been running a Pink Food Consult Limited, which is an agency. And as I continue to be the creative director of the agency, doing a lot of graphic design work, advertising, visual communication, brand development, I want to take a slight shift. And after 20 years in the industry, since 2004, I have been on a pedestal. I have sat in the leadership of associations and institutions. I have been the chairperson of the Photographers Association of Kenya for a number of years. I have sat in the leadership of Design Kenya Society, which is the umbrella body of designers in this country. I have also been on the advisory board of one of the circles that works to serve in the creative industry in Kenya. I have also been teaching. I have been an instructor in these things for the last 12 years or so. But I have seen beyond my own struggles. I have seen the struggles of many artists, of creatives, of people who are trying to make money through film, through dance, through design, through music, through all the forms of expression in the culture and creative industries. I have seen the misunderstanding that comes in our space. And when I look at all this, I wonder, can we make it better? Can we start with a diagnosis, which is what I want to do today, just to understand what really are the problems that plague us? Is it possible that we can work together as associations, as industry leaders, as artists and creatives? But we must first understand what our problems are, because our problems, they also are very systemic. They have been here with us for decades. Some of them we sing about them every day, every night, year in, year out. And this gives us a starting point in terms of making our creative industry better, know where to look for solutions, know where to close the gaps. And in that, we will be able to have more money in our pockets, have less depression in our industry, have less mental issues in our industry, so that people can have thriving careers in the creative industry. When I talk about thriving careers, around 2016, 2017, I started an organization, an initiative called Karakana Initiative. Online, a lot of you know it as Karakana Online. And it was my baby steps in terms of creating solutions for Kenya's creative industry. So when I say that I'm making a slight shift in terms of the activities that I do and what I'm focusing on, I believe that it is possible for us to be very deliberate, very focused, and put the correct effort and energies to make Kenya's creative industry, creative careers, creative space, artists have a better life, have more money, and have thriving careers. We need to appreciate the truth that we are very much misunderstood. We need to appreciate that the government has always given us the short end of the stick, and that the system, by and large, does not favor artistry and does not favor creativity. You know, I grew up with the word jua kali, and because my father used to buy newspapers, being a teacher, I used to see jua kali and see this photo of artisans trying to create karais za chuma, hammering them with a mallet. That was a trademark of jua kali. Until I came to the creative industry to work in it and realized that we are the real, we are the epitome of jua kali. Our industry, first, one of the biggest problems is that it's a very informal industry. Our structures are very weak. The system that defines our industry is not even understood. You know, our time, I remember every time I could tell someone that I want to be a graphic designer, the next thing they would tell you is, kumbe unaweza nichora. And I will tell you that even today when there is so much access of information, you know, democratization of information and AI, there is still a lot of misunderstanding of what the creative industry is, or what I could sometimes call the culture and creative industries. Many people do not understand. Teachers do not understand. Lecturers do not understand. Even some who teach in the institutions that claim to teach artists and creatives, they do not understand the overall structure and how the creative industry works. Even career counselors in schools and colleges and universities, trust me, they don't understand exactly the frameworks, the systems, the value chains that should work with the creative industry. Because if they did this, trust me, a third or half of the problems that we have, we don't have to deal with them. So we are very misunderstood. We are a very jua kali industry, and our systems are very fragmented. They are not connected. They do not relate seamlessly with each other. So when I talk about the systems and the jua kali nature of this industry, and people not understanding how the creative industry works, I promise that my second video will be addressing that, because right now, as we record this, we are talking about pathways. I put up a blog post on usanifunews.com, which is the news blog for Karakana online. And I did an article about the struggles and the pathways that are there, but I'm going to set some more time and do a much longer video where I'm going to talk about the structure of the creative industry from a globally accepted industry standard kind of framework. The second challenge that we have has to do with money, because I remember the first time I heard the word starving artist syndrome was at the university, and that word is so much alive. But we might want to change it a bit and say maybe heavily taxed syndrome, in terms of rates, in terms of costs, in terms of costs that we have to incur when we are doing our work. Some years back, there was a joke. What walikuwa wanasema, if you go to shoot a film on Mombasa Road, where you have, that time you had Alfred Mutua's Machakos County on this side, and you had Kajiado County on this other side. And the joke from filmmakers was that kamera ikiangalia pande hii unalipa 50,000, ikiangalia pande ya Kajiado unalipa 35,000. You know, filming, and I had this discussion with somebody from the Kenya Tourist Board the other day, and they were saying the fees, you know, they have to deal with applications for waiver of fees for filming. And that is a good SI unit of the challenge that we are facing as artists and creatives in Kenya in terms of the costs that we have to incur in different spaces. We definitely are very glad, of course, to our governor in Nairobi, Sakaja, because photographers have been shooting for free, and that is really, really a very important soft landing. In spite of many other challenges, kuna watu wanasema haiwork, but I must tell you, for photography and photographers, in a work in Nairobi, and that also opened opportunities for other people across. I'm sure now you go to other cities and other towns outside Nairobi, you will find people shooting photos and videos, and I don't think they are being charged anything. However, when it comes to filming, if you think about things like drones, if you think about county government fees, if you think about licensing and training for drones, if you think about having to deal with foreigners' licenses for KFCB, and then you still have to deal with Film Commission and other institutions, we have a lot of challenges there. I have not even gotten to things like purchase of cameras, and it is not just in production. Artists' materials are just expensive. An artist's life is expensive. If you want to buy paints, they are expensive. If you want to buy watercolor paper, it is expensive. And being an artist and creative in this country is an expensive affair. Even the good schools and colleges and universities that teach art, they do not come at a penny. It costs a lot of money, and it is most likely out of reach for many. And when I say that these things are out of reach for many, then where does it leave us? Lazima tutakata kona. I struggle to find when I last saw genuine software, genuine Adobe. That is just an example of how much now, kama wasanii, lazima tukate kona. If you tell people to do things the legit way, it's not going to be possible for most of us. And for those who want to do it legit, it will cost a lot of money, it's expensive, and the costs are out of reach for many people. A number of years back, a friend of mine called Roy Gitahi brought myself and a number of other industry leaders together. And in his mind up to today, he has a vision for something called Wabuni Sacco. Wabuni Sacco was envisioned to be a sacco serving this creative industry through registered and officially recognized associations. And I am not very sure about where Wabuni Sacco is today, but one thing I know that Roy Gitahi has been pushing for is banking on the unbankability of artists and creatives. He has been an evangelist for this all along for, I think, over a decade now, trying to push banks and other financial institutions to recognize especially the IP that artists hold. Because today, it is very hard for an artist or a creative to go to the bank and use what they have. Mark you, we call it intellectual property, just that it doesn't have a title deed as such. But I'm glad now that the Kenya Copyright Board started registering our intellectual property. But then the banks cannot give you a loan or finance against your music, your art, your sculptures, your designs. That becomes very hard. I could have a library on Getty Images or stock photo website worth, I don't know, a couple of millions of shillings, but I cannot walk to the bank with that and get finance. That means that our things have not been mainstreamed. At the same time, we find that we have skiza tunes, we have music. I have to remind you that according to global standards, music is around number 2, 3 in terms of the highest revenue or turnover, in terms of subsectors of creative industry where money flows. So it's a bit hard to believe, like we have a lot of musicians in this country who make money when they're sleeping through things like skiza and all these monetization paths for their music, copyrights. But then I don't think we are yet in that position where they are able to monetize it or walk to the bank and get a facility against what they have. Talking about music and copyright brings me to my fourth point, which is a challenge dealing with intellectual property in this country. I cringe every time I'm somewhere, there are people and they say, I'm going to trademark my work so that people do not steal it. It's amazing how much ignorance we have, of course, both inside the creative industry and outside, in terms of how people understand intellectual property. And that is why up to today, you'll still find people using copyrights and trademarks and patents. Unapata mtu anasema, mimi nita patent hizi picha zangu ndio watu wasiibe. Yet they don't understand that patents operate in industrial innovations, and copyright comes to creative works, and then we have trade secrets. So there is very, very weak framework for intellectual property in this country. And that has not done us any favor, because it means if someone infringes on your copyright, or someone breaks a contract, or there's just a problem with intellectual property. I mean, we have had all these challenges with the young people coming up with innovative software solutions and then big institutions stealing them. You know, that has been with us for a very long time. And, you know, wahenga walisema, ukishindana na ndovu kunya, kuna mtu atapasuka msamba. So we are there, very tiny, small, shrunk as artists and creatives, and oftentimes is a David and Goliath scenario, but then Goliath is always winning. I'm still trying to find out what happens with Willis Raburu and his case with EABL and the alleged breach of contract there. I think the story imeenda chini ya maji, but then that is just a tip of the iceberg. It's just one of the many kind of cases that we have seen. But then the whole framework of legal issues and intellectual property, the ignorance, the lack of knowledge, the lack of frameworks, the lack of ways to address it is a big, big, big problem. So we find that these problems that I'm trying to highlight in this video, they cut across and they are related to each other. Because of lack of knowledge, people perish. So intellectual property is a big, big system problem in this country. Then there is something else that is very interesting, but I want to share a short story. Nikisema mchezo wa town utaelewa what I'm trying to say, because there is this thing about the government putting sports and creative economy in the same basket. And it reminded me of a time back in 1995 when I was in Form 1. And we had been asked to go to school with, you know, sporty stuff, swimming costumes and hockey sticks and badminton rackets and table tennis rackets. And, you know, my parents used to go to Mombasa. I think my dad used to go to Mombasa every December. Something to do with either church or marking, composition or insha. I can't remember which, but one of those. So my parents brought me a swimming costume. And during our first PE class, I went swimming. And I realized that the swimming costume that my dad had bought me was a lady's swimming costume. So it came all the way up here, you know, with sleeves. And then it was a very bright pink, almost close to magenta. And the whole class in Form 1 was shocked and everybody laughed at me. Luckily, me nakuanga roho ngumu, so I was like, I think the artist in me just was like, oh, okay, so this is a lady's costume. I didn't know how a boy's costume, swimming costume should look like. So I just got off the sleeves, nika fold hapa kwa waist, and believe it or not, I swam with that costume until Form 4. Now, I know you're wondering, that is the only time that we can allow sports and artistry to mix. So nikisema mchezo wa town, what I mean is it is not a global standard. It is not how it works. Perhaps politics, but strategically, policy-wise, framework-wise, industry-wise, I do not think it is wise that sports and creative economy are put in the same basket. Perhaps the only thing that is common to those two is that we have a lot of celebrities. Sports has a lot of celebrities and kind of individual effort, but we don't have a lot of individual effort, by the way, in creative industry. Even when you see a famous actor on screen, on film, it takes 20, 30, 50 other people behind the scenes to make that act a success. I have not mentioned that culture currently in this Ruto's government is in the same basket with children and gender affairs. I must also remind you that it's supposed to be culture and creative industries, because creativity is what is used to express culture. When they are playing drums, when they are doing music, when they are designing jewelry, when people are painting and scarring their faces and skins, when they are telling stories, storytelling, all these things. cultural expression and heritage is a very important part of creativity. Lakini tulitupwa huko na mambo ya watoto na gender issues. I will leave it at that, but I hope that you get a glimpse of a very serious flow in terms of how our creative industry has been set up. The second layer of problems in this space is we have a lot of overlaps. We have a lot of overlaps, whether in terms of licensing, government departments, parastatals, if you want to call them so. Some people call them sagas. There is not a good understanding of what structure the creative industry should be having. A few minutes ago, I mentioned Ababu Namwamba. It is likely we miss him because the guy was busy. Some people accused him of being too busy and not doing anything. But I tell you, we'd rather have his busyness then, because since that time, not much has been happening. He had a very ambitious plan called Talanta Hela, under which very many other things came through. Of course, in respect and honor of Baba, we have decided to change Talanta Stadium. And since then, we have seen Aisha Jumwa, I think in that position. We have seen Murkomen hold it for a few weeks. And now we are with Honorable Mburia, which in my opinion is giving a lot of attention to sports more than creative industry. We would like to see him more addressing the creative industry. So this whole misalignment of government ministries and departments, the misalignment of other smaller institutions that are supposed to cater for our needs, the frequent changes in leadership, they bring a very serious problem. A serious problem of trying to implement policy, trying to pursue a common vision. So we have too much start, stop. And before you realize, we will be in 2027 and we have a creative industry bill, or is it the creative economy bill, that is still being cooked. So it just takes too long to get things done in Kenya's creative industry. So I have two other short stories that, or do I call them experiences, that made me realize we are in serious problems as a creative industry. Around 12 years ago, one of the institutions in this country invited me to a round table, and many others, maybe we were 15 or 20 of us in a room, to discuss curriculum change and update for that institution. And the things they were talking in that room shocked me, because they were talking about changing the curriculum. And having been in the industry for around 4, 5, 6 years at that time, I was like, oh my God, whatever they are discussing here is already nyuma sana. Yet, they were updating the curriculum. And that gave me a front row seat of how much problems we are dealing with in our learning institutions. I have also seen, having been an employer of 2, 3 people every time in my office, the lack of industry-ready skills in young people who have come off college or university. So we are dealing with a very serious skills mismatch, because what is being taught in institutions is a little bit outdated. And then we are in a creative space that is, syllabus inasonga haraka, as we like to say. But the institutions, especially because of bureaucracy, if you change the syllabus, you still have to go to the government and a lot of procedures and bureaucracy and red tape. And this becomes a very big problem, because then you bring people into the industry and then you have to reteach them, you have to take them through another learning process. It's expensive, it takes time, not everybody can afford it. Not everybody even knows how to do that kind of preparation, so that now the people who are in the job market are ready for the industry and can bring useful, up-to-date skills. The second encounter that I had was, there was a space I was hanging around just here in Nairobi. There are a lot of people who are around animation, motion graphics, film, photography, And in that small clique of ours, five guys were dropouts from one of the top colleges in this town. Five of the guys who are around Nderitu yetu, they were dropouts from one of the top colleges, institutions in this Nairobi. And I got to talk to some of them and realize that this institution teaches courses that are very dependent on technology. But by the time a lecturer is trying to teach something in class, somebody has already gone to YouTube, learned it better than the teacher, and they are outputting work. They are doing motion graphics, they are doing graphic design and other things better than the teacher who's coming to class. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I was like, how many other people are going through class because they have to finish, because their parents are paying school fees, and they have to learn things through a very painful process only to go back and start afresh. So when we are talking about a serious mismatch between the learning institutions and the industry professionals, it also becomes a very, very serious issue. Remember, I said that the challenges we have are interconnected. So when you're talking about learning facilities, the funding challenge that I talked about before, whether it's the money that the government sends to the institutions, especially the government-run ones. So underfunding means there is a lack of facilities. So you will find that the students do not have enough facilities to learn, and that contributes to their lack of readiness when they get into the market. Now, something else that we have to deal with. I came to this city in 1999. That's around 26 years ago. And Nairobi has a very vibrant creative culture. If you're in Nairobi, you can watch a play every weekend. You can watch a Kenyan film almost every 1 or 2 weeks. If you're in Nairobi, you can attend Nairobi Festival. If you're in Nairobi, you can see another street festival. If you're in Nairobi, you can easily come across a graffiti artist. If you're in Nairobi, you can go to the Kenya Cultural Center. You can go to iHub. You can go to Baraza Media Lab. You can go to Mageuzi Hub. You can go to so many other places. You can meet many artists. There are a lot of meetups. There are workshops left, right, and center. There are expos. There's a lot that you can do in Nairobi. I think we have, somebody mapped out galleries the other day. We have over 30 galleries in Nairobi. There is an exhibition every time. You can go to Sarakasi Dome and see dance and circus. You can go to shopping malls and exhibit your art. Lakini ukitoka Nairobi, problem starts there. So our key infrastructure, of course, is focused in the capital. But the moment you get out of Nairobi, perhaps Nakuru has a very vibrant creative community. Kisumu County is very active in the creative industry. Mombasa is also very active. Eldoret a little bit. Kitale, you know, they have the Kitale Film Week and all that. Now, you start going to other places. We have serious problems. And the county governments are not helping either. So it is very hard to find galleries, theaters. Oh, and the little ones we have, they have problems as we speak. It's very hard to find places for exhibitions and what I may just call vibrant communities for artists and creatives outside Nairobi. So the problem there is that ukitoka Nairobi, you will find that the ecosystem does not favor what we as artists and creatives do. You know, I remember when Ababu Namwamba was launching Talanta Hela, I think the slogan for that program was Pesa Mfukoni, or something like that. Of course, it was both for artists and sports. And I say it again, I think it was a brilliant idea. I'm not sure where it is right now. But kuongea ukweli hakuna pesa mfukoni. I have mentioned before, at least twice in this video, that we are greatly underfunded. Recent statistics indicate that creative economy contributes 5% to Kenya's GDP, give or take. But funding itself is 1%. So it is seriously disproportionate. The other problem, like I've mentioned a few minutes ago, is that the county governments also, they are not even anywhere near where the national government is. A few handpicked county governments are very serious and very dedicated when it comes to artists. But most of the 47 county governments, they do not even consider creative economy that importantly. I have seen many of them watatuguzilia kidogo when they are dealing with youth matters. They will run a model show. They will have some musicians come and rap and dance, and then they will do a few paintings displayed, and that's it. So there is a serious problem of funding, which means we cannot have long-term investment in the creative industry. And then that means that we have a lot of missed opportunities by young people who would like to be part of the creative industry. Now, as I come to the near close for this video, my first video, the next point I'm about to share is a bit funny because kama mtu wa Murima, we had a very good festival. I think it started last year but one, called Ngemi Festival. And in spite of it looking like 70% of the audience was ladies, I think Ngemi Festival was a brilliant idea. And then no sooner had we done, started seeing Ndumo Festival, Mataha Festival. Recently we were posting on our news channel, Usanifu News, about Murima Fest. And then there was Ndumo. And I think Ndumo was we old people. We were told by the younger audience of that festival that please, the old people of Mogidi, songeni kando enjeni mwanzishe yenu muite Ndumo Festival. And actually somebody went ahead and did that. But you see that from the moment you want to start Ngemi Festival and then copycat, what happened with that Kikuyu Festival is just a hallmark of something about our event, cultural and festival space. Sometime in late December, we also wrote an article, you can check it out on usanifunews.com, about the dilution of cultural festivals in this country by politics. I must emphasize the role of culture and heritage. Culture and heritage plays a key role in terms of putting out there opportunities for artistic and creative expression. We have given it not as much attention as we should. So you find that we have a lot of events, but they are not authentic. There is a lot of copycat culture. And so wasanii will get underpaid. And every time you go online, you see artists complaining because they are not being, because the cultural expression space is not authentic, is not well thought out, is not professionally run. And that is a key ingredient in our industry. So too many festivals, not much happening. I mean, you will hear about Luo Festival, you'll hear about whatever. I know the Rusinga Festival and the Namlolwe, you know, they try a bit to be original. And then the guys at the Baobab event, they still have to deal with being accused of being devil worshippers and doing funny things. I mean, that space, we need to understand it. And I wish that we can take time, even those people who make decisions, policymakers, the festival organizers, the county governments especially, that are given the role to organize the, you know, the Masai festivals, the Turkanas, the Loyangalani ones, the Samburu Derby, the Nairobi Festival, all this. If only we can make them to be rich, authentic, well-organized, well-funded platforms for artistic and cultural expression. Well, we don't mind if the president can show up on the last day and issue the title deed for Amboseli National Park. But then creative expression, culture and heritage must be on the pedestal from day one to the last day of our cultural festivals. So in closing, I think it is important that artists, creatives, teachers, lecturers, the business people who run the institutions, the government leaders who make policy, the people in quasi-government institutions that are responsible for a lot of things, those who license our drones, those who are making laws for digital media, and those who are trying to curtail us because of maandamano. All of us need to understand the space that we are operating in, the core challenges that we have to come face to face with, so that then we start a long journey, a very long marathon, to get solutions. I have tried to put together around 9 or 10 core problems. But then there is another problem that is very persistent. We have this issue of MCSK, Pavrisk, Camp, Skiza Tunes. Ako kashida kamesumbua hii industry sana. I have to remind you that music is one of the biggest earners in the entire creative industry, even globally. I think it only comes second to film and TV, and now the creator economy, the one that runs mostly on social media and content creation and all that. That one has risen up to number 2 or 3. Wako hapo na music. So music is a subsector that is, in this country, wasanii, hiyo shida haijaitatuliwa. They are in and out of court, Kekobo, what, Camp, Pavrisk, problem. I know Intumbi has promised to sort that problem. I hope it really gets sorted, because even the president himself has promised. I hope it gets sorted. Another problem we have is data and research. I hope very soon I'm going to get time to talk about that. We don't have enough data. We don't have enough research to back up decision making. You know, that is it's a strategy. It's a systemic problem. The other thing is that we do not have strong, up-to-date policies in this country for creativity and culture. You know, as I said, we are still dealing with the creative economy, the pending bill. Haijaisha, bado iko huko tu somewhere. So it has not been passed and finalized, you know. And very many other kind of bills have come up. I think in our design community, I've heard things, huko kwa fashion, you know, they are just things that the system does not support. So I don't want to call it a small problem, but then the issue of our policies not being up to date and not aligning with like best practices globally, which, like I have said, even stems from a lack of understanding of the culture and creative industry, the framework, the structure. Just that basic lack of understanding means we have a false start. So our policies, our strategies, they are not up to date, they are not well put together. So as long as hii nyumba ikijengwa, plan yake haiko sawasawa, tutajipata tu kwa maporomoko, you know. So that is a serious problem. And then this art thing of ours, perception. You know, even in family gatherings, if you are anywhere kwa usanii, people always see you at, so when will you really start working? Or when will you really, even in this era of our celebrities online who are really making money, you know, the comedians and the content creators who are living flashy lives and looking like they have big money, others building very big houses, and guys making fun that the houses look like shopping malls. I mean, guys have money. Even with all that, most people are still perceived as, okay, when will you get a real job? Utakuwa serious lini? Iki tunafanya ni kazi kweli? So there is that perception problem. There's that perception problem, and that means that we have not been mainstream. The mainstream economic system, big companies, they will still deal with us as the others. We are not part of the main system. And so it is up to us in this creative industry to also be our own evangelists so that art creativity can be mainstreamed. We do not want to be put higher, kuja utumbuize watu alafu go back, retreat back to your humble corner. Now let's do the serious things. We are serious, but we have to show people that we are a serious industry. So thank you for watching my video. If you like what is there, you can comment, you can share. You can also reach out to us and tell us what more you would like to see, what more you'd like us to address. And I'll be preparing my next video where I will take time to break down the creative industry so that even as artists, some of you who are leaders in this industry, some of you who are outside the creative industry, but you deal with people in the creative industry. Some of you are in the creative industry, but you deal with people outside. The more you understand the creative industry, then the better everything is going to be. The more understanding you have about something, then if you want to solve a problem, you are more or less halfway there in terms of solving that problem. So my next video is going to be about understanding the core sectors of the creative industry and the subsectors. You know, we have audiovisual, we have visual arts, we have music, which is now on its own, and now we have the creator economy. The creator economy ni lastborn kamekuja juzi, lakini kamekuja na vitisho. And then in my third video, I'm going to be talking about creative pathways. I have mentioned that I already have a blog post on usanifunews.com about career pathways. It's a little bit shallow, but in the third video, I want to be a little bit more broad, because one of the reasons why people are not making money is because the artists, the creatives, the parents, the teachers, the career counselors do not understand there's so many opportunities in creative industry that you cannot just be a photographer. It was very hard for me to just be a photographer, to just be a graphic designer, to just be a videographer. I mean, heck, I even had to learn how to fly a drone, you know, because that's the nature of the creative industry. But then we must have very clear understanding of all the opportunities that there are. This is important for the young artists, for some of you who are making career shifts, some of you who are lecturers, perhaps some of you who are sitting in government and they've just been wondering, okay, hii usanini nini? So thank you very much for watching and see you soon. Goodbye.